Hello, Melissa Crook from the Field Podcast here. Today's episode is Communicating Our Needs is Kind with Comfort Woods. And the ways to engage with this episode are as follows. Do you expect people to know what your expectations are automatically, or do you communicate them to people? If you don't, what stops you from communicating your expectations or boundaries with people? It's important to be clear with people rather than making assumptions, even if it's difficult to communicate your expectations at first. We hope this gives you some thoughtful things as you to consider as you engage today with communicating our needs as kind with Comfort Woods. Thanks so much for being with us. We hope you enjoy this episode. Take good care. Hello, welcome back this week to the Field Podcast. I'm Melissa Crook, your host, and I've got a new friend here with me today, Comfort Woods. Comfort reached out to me a while back and started sharing her story. And she's like, I think that what I'm doing and what I'm sharing and what I'm learning really aligns with what you're talking about here on the Field Podcast. What do you think? And so I took a look at what she was doing, what she was involved in, her story. I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely. So it took some time to find time in our schedules to make it work. But we're finally here today to have this conversation. And her stories and I, even just from the little things I've learned about her already, have a lot of alignments. And a lot of our work and how we've approached it definitely has some interesting similarities. And so I'm excited to dive into that more and just walk through these talking points because so much of the way she shows up for women now is tied into what we're going to talk about today in these talking points. And it's going to provide, I think, some really supportive resources for you out there. So I'm excited to share Comfort's story with you today. She describes herself as kind, confident, playful, intuitive, and altruistic. Comfort Woods, welcome to the Field Podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so glad to have you. Let's get. I know. I think there's going to be a lot to say. And as I was reading through your content and learning more about you, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was like taking all these notes. I'm like, I got to remember all these things to point out because she's already spoken to so many of the things we're going to talk about today. So I'm excited to hear you talk about it one-on-one with me. But let's start with prioritizing self-care in your life and what your journey has looked like for that. You really had to learn, not from examples that you got, but on your own, that self-care was not selfish, that it was okay to prioritize yourself and your wellness. Talk to me about that transformation, I would say, and transition.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a little background on where I came from. I grew up in a very big, very chaotic family. I had a lot of siblings and I was the middle child, right? So
Oh, wow.
right then, and anyone who's been the middle child, they know that they kind of just fade into the background a little bit. You're not the oldest, you're not the big, first kid, and you're not the youngest, you're not the baby. And so like, you're just kind of there and you're just like one of the gang, right? So that was the beginning, and that in and of itself was fine, but my parents split up when I was about 8 years old. And then over the course of the next few years, they each proceeded to have children with their new partners. And so there were a bunch of new babies. And so my older siblings and I kind of just got forgotten. And so the message that I internalized from this whole experience was that, like, hey, other people have a lot going on and your needs don't really matter. And so you need to like help out and pick up the slack. And I became the default babysitter to my younger siblings. And, I felt validated in my ability to help and contribute. But my own needs were often put off to the side. That also combined with I was bullied a lot as a kid by the other kids in the neighborhood. I was kind of the runt and kind of the tag along. And so the message I received from the way I was treated every day was, don't stand out, don't speak out too much, change yourself and do whatever you have to do so that these people will accept you, because it was a very small neighborhood and people, there weren't a lot of other kids to hang out with.
Yeah.
So this was kind of it. So I spent day after day after day trying to change myself and morph myself and silence myself and be whatever I needed to be so that the abuse would stop and I would finally be accepted into the group. So all of that combined turned me into a chronic people pleaser. I made myself as small as possible. I tried to take up as little space as possible, tried to have no needs of my own because nobody else could handle me or handle anything more than what they were doing, and everyone else's business was more important than mine. So that was where I came from.
Mm.
And those messages, I carried them with me into my adult life and into my adult relationships. And it it ended up manifesting in relationships that were not serving me, where I was not putting my needs first, and my life was going in this direction that was kind of chosen for me. It started feeling more and more as the years went on like my life was slipping by and it wasn't really even mine. And I was just a passenger. And I know so many people can resonate with feeling like a passenger in their own life. Um, so yeah, things finally came to a head years ago when I ended up in a not so safe situation. I was in a really dark place in my life, and the people I was spending my time with made me feel physically unsafe. And I, it got to the point where the fear of staying finally outweighed the fear of leaving.
Yeah.
And I remember this moment where I looked in the mirror and thought to myself, like, where has my life gone? And I remembered being that kid that was getting bullied and that was forgotten and daydreaming every day, which is something people do in those
Oh,
situations, is
yeah, that
dissociate.
disassociation, yep.
Yeah, I did that all the time. And what I would daydream about was the future and thinking, oh, someday, I'll be strong. Someday I will be powerful. I will be loved. I will be included. I will be authentically me and accepted for it. And I will figure out how to do that. And here I was, 26 years old, looking in the mirror thinking, what happened? Like, where did that opportunity go? I was spending so many years waiting for somebody else to give me permission to finally get started. And I realized in that moment, no one is going to give me that permission. Like, if I don't take care of that little version of me that was forgotten and mistreated every day, then who will? Nobody spends more time with me than I do. And I cannot sit around telling myself that I'm unloved and unwanted anymore. And that was the
Mm.
turning point.
Mm. Wow, you said
So,
so many things there that I resonated with, um, in terms of being, acting and performing in a way that would make you acceptable, lovable, doing things to get affirmations, being the helper, not expressing your own needs or your own emotions. Because, quite honestly, I know at least for me, the adults in my life had no aptitude for knowing how to handle their own emotions, let alone anybody else's. And um, so you figure out ways to fit into the spaces to minimize the chaos and feel affirmed and seen and heard. And so but you do get to a point where, like, I'm the only one that can change this narrative for myself. No one else is going to change it for me. And unfortunately, we do sometimes get to those cringe points in our lives where we've got a couple of choices and only one is going to get us in a better direction than where we're currently at. But it's, really kind of taking ownership. But when you live in an environment where you don't feel like you can trust yourself, that your voice isn't valid, or the way that you are authentically isn't enough or isn't right, can be difficult to muster up the the confidence to do those things.
yeah, absolutely. And what you just said there about not trusting yourself, I feel like that is such a huge part of the damage that emotional abuse can have on a person. And my clients, one thing that they almost all of them say that they want is more clarity, especially when it comes to making day-to-day decisions and being able to trust themselves and be able to just do and just be and not overthink and worry about the ramifications and what other people are going to think all the time. And so a big part of my work is teaching my clients to trust themselves and to care for themselves and to love themselves. And that's what that inner child work is about recognizing this little part of yourself that received all these messages that you've been carrying without realizing them, and then taking a look back at the situation and thinking, wait a minute, are these messages even true? Where did they come from? Who did they serve? Right? And
Yeah.
thinking, what does little me need to hear? What did I actually need to hear in those moments in order to thrive, in order to be my best self? And, you know, the women that I work with, they have this idea that self-care is inherently selfish. And I used to have that feeling too, until I realized that, and I want them to realize this, is that if you are able to go through the world doing what you want, people automatically go to, oh, that means I'm more important. And that means that I'm going to, trample all over everybody else. But these women that I'm working with, they are kind. They are beautiful, awesome, wonderful people who, if they do what they want, they are going to do things to help those around them. They're going to do things to spread the love and spread the joy and lift other people up. So, like, yes, be strong enough to do what you want.
Yeah.
That's such a
Absolutely.
big part of it.
It's a huge part of it. And we get these narratives, and I talk about this all the time, but it's true. We get these narratives as little girls that you are there to help everybody else and be supportive and be kind and wear yourself out because putting yourself first is selfish. And that's not true because,
Mm-mm.
and it's such a backward script. If we actually are taught to prioritize our wellness, to fill our cup, to do things that excite us, to make space for ourselves to rest and rejuvenate, we actually show up as the best, healthiest, most authentic versions of ourselves for us and for the whole world. Everyone gets a better version of us when they get the filled, rejuvenated, rested, authentic person. I mean, that, and no, everybody wins when that happens. And so it's
Mhm.
changing that narrative, but so many times when we've lived with a certain narrative for so long, we treat these thoughts like truth, and we don't stop to consider thoughts don't mean truth. So we got to unpack where this is coming from and why. Who told us that? And who does it serve? Which goes nicely into confidently setting boundaries. You have blogs about this. You talk about this a lot about who do you surround yourself with. If someone's got a problem with your boundary, it's most likely they're just not happy that you're not going to show up for them in a way that serves them anymore. You're actually standing
Mhm.
up for yourself and your time and what you have to give and what you will and won't allow in your life. So talk to me how you got about that kind of evolution into that realization for yourself and being able to move into that space confidently.
When I hit rock bottom and hit that turning point, I I essentially ran out of F's to give. And
Yeah.
that was a big part of it. Just
Yeah,
I was so
absolutely.
emotionally just numb at that point where I just started saying, you know what? No. Like, just no. I am so drained and so empty. I have nothing left to give. No. And that was where the no began. And the more I said it, the more I started feeling better and realizing, like, wait a minute, like, you know, everybody gets to have needs. Everybody gets to have priorities and everybody gets to have, the chance to take up some space in the world. And,
Yes,
you know, we're no different. Maybe we're not like more important than everybody else, but we're not less important either. We're just
exactly.
as important as the people around us and the people that we give everything to in order to make their world a little bit better. There are people in our lives who would do the same for us if we would just let them. Like we are that to other people, or at least, hopefully we are to the people
Yeah.
around us. That's what life and connection is. We are hardwired for connection and to build each other up. That's a big part of it. And so a big part of what I teach my clients is that setting boundaries is the kinder thing to do for the people around you. The way I like to frame it is, you know, if you've ever been on the receiving end of this, where someone is in your space and they are clearly upset about something, they are bothered, they're showing all the signs, all the body language. And those of us who've been emotionally abused are very attuned to the emotions of other people. We can tell like every teeny tiny little clue, every little sign, we overthink it. So if someone is in your space, they're clearly upset and you're asking them what's up and they're saying, nothing, I'm fine. I'm fine. That is
Passive
the most
aggressive
anxiety
champions
producing.
of the world.
Yeah, that is the most anxiety producing thing anybody could possibly do. And when we deny our needs, we are doing that to the people around us. Whereas if we just spoke up about what we need, what we want, what we are allowing, what we are not allowing into our lives, that relieves the people around us of the guesswork of having to figure out what we're thinking.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah,
Communicating the boundaries, communicating the needs, communicating what it is we're feeling in the moment and what we can and can't give in that time.
yeah, it's the nicer thing. It's the kinder thing to do to the people around us because then they don't have to wonder. They can think, oh, okay, this is exactly where I stand with this person. And I can trust that they mean what they say what they mean. And if there's a problem, they will tell me and I'll have the opportunity to fix it. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's huge, and people do not give that enough credit. So that's something I really like to share with my clients of like, hey, guess what, setting boundaries does not make you selfish. It doesn't make you, self-centered or whatever. It makes you kinder to the people around you. It
Yeah.
makes
And
your
to
world and
yourself.
your orbit. Yes, oh my god, yes. Because the fact is, nobody spends more time with you than you do. Nobody spends more time with you than you do. Nobody knows what you need like you do. Nobody can read your mind like you can.
Hmm.
Nobody is getting all of those sensory clues from your body and your emotions and all of that stuff that that comes up when there is an issue to be dealt with, when there is, something's off and needs to be adjusted. Nobody else is getting those clues, just you. So if you don't communicate that to the people around you, if you don't stand up for yourself, no one else can. It has to be you. And it has to be now. Life is too short to sit there waiting for someone else to give you permission.
Yeah, and they don't need to give you permission. That's the other thing too. But when you grow up in spaces where your voice isn't welcome and it's not wanted and it's diminished, it's really it's takes a kind of a light bulb moment or somebody outside of that saying that to you to kind of alert you, like, oh, wait a minute, somebody else cares what I think, somebody else cares about my voice in this, they want my opinion, I get to take up space here, I get to be heard.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is that when you are empowered and you feel confident in speaking your mind, that means that you are able to say that to the people around you. You see people who are in a similar situation who may be struggling and may have a hard time, and you can be the first one. You could be the one to get it started and just open up that dialogue to get them to dig deep and to feel what they feel and to be seen. It's terrifying to put yourself out there, but everybody wishes that someone else will do it first and give them permission. You get to be that person when you are empowered.
Yeah, and it's an invitation for others to come along with you and do that too, and then it gets rid of that sense of loneliness and fear that can come with it when you say, "All right, I'm raising my voice. Let's do that together. Let's do that. Let me support you in that." Be the person in the room where if someone's speaking up and another person interrupts them, be the person that says, hey, I don't think that Comfort was done speaking yet. Can we give her a moment to let her finish? Those little things are so empowering.
Oh man, and I've gotten so much practice doing that as a substitute teacher for middle schools.
I bet.
Yeah,
That's a great
I'm still
platform.
substitute teaching. So every day I'm practicing staying calm. I'm practicing saying no. I'm practicing making sure that everybody has a chance to share and talk and that people are that these kids are regulating their emotions and, having a chance to feel them and validate them while also holding them accountable for their behavior in the classroom.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been really great practice, actually,
Yeah.
being
It's
able
a
to
whole
do that.
sociology experience hanging out with middle schoolers, I think. It's such
Yeah,
a crucial
absolutely.
time,
And
and you can and those kids, so many of those kids, you can tell already the ones that haven't been heard, haven't been allowed to have a voice you can already pick up on that.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
seeing the way their faces light up when you give them a chance. It's the best feeling in the world. And another thing I learned in, teaching, and this is something that's not talked about enough in education, is the emotional toll that learning something new can take on a person. And this is something that I address in my program, of the discomfort that comes with stepping into your power and learning to set boundaries and putting yourself out there and actually practicing it. Those, it's not going to feel super triumphant right at first. Like, it's going to feel
Yeah.
awkward and scary, and you might have like feelings of guilt or shame associated with it, the first many times that you set a boundary and enforce it. Like, and so that is to be expected, and knowing how to hold space for yourself and being gentle with yourself, which is where that inner child work comes in again, of like,
Yeah.
hey, if 10-year-old you was trying to stand up for herself, what would you say to her to encourage her to keep doing that, to show her that her needs are valid? Like, if you wouldn't say it to 10-year-old you, don't say it to adult you. Like, that
Yeah.
self-talk is so so important. Um but yeah, just knowing that change is inherently uncomfortable, and that doesn't mean that you can't do it. In fact, that discomfort is a signal that you're doing something worth doing, that you're making real change. Like,
Yeah, because your nervous
yeah,
system equates familiarity with safety. It doesn't know how to delineate between familiarity and unsafe versus familiarity and safe. So, whenever you make that kind of a big change and you're doing something new, it's going to take some time to practice it, to get used to it. And to feel comfortable in it, because you're also retraining your nervous system that this is the new way you're going to show up now, and that's okay.
I think that's why so many people need to get to like this rock bottom moment before that change can even begin, because yeah, you just get to this point where you are avoiding that discomfort so much, and then the rock bottom is where you're already just so miserable, and everything's already so crazy that you have nothing to lose anymore.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and the anger takes over and the self-righteous indignation takes over, and you're finally like, you know what, f this, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, and that's where your anger can motivate you in a really good way. I mean, I think that we mislabel anger sometimes. Anger can be a powerful motivator for really important strong change when you use it to shift things in a way that's healthy and well for you.
Absolutely. I mean, we have our emotions for a reason. And that is a big part of what I like to teach my clients, especially early on in my program, is that, these maladaptive tendencies that you've developed, these emotional mood swings and whatever else, like all these things that you might be shaming yourself for, like, oh, why did I react that way? Or why did I overthink this? Or why did I blow up? Or why did I, cave or go silent or whatever? But like, this is your body and mind's way of keeping you safe. This is what they learned. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. And people put themselves down for reacting the way they do in ways that they've adapted to be because of really extreme circumstances that they've been through. And the first thing you have to do is be gentle with yourself and acknowledge that, hey, these alarm systems are going off, but they're doing so to keep you safe. So being able to give yourself the space to hear them and say, hey, I hear it, I acknowledge it. I'm going to look at the surroundings and assess whether this is a real threat. And we're just going to calm down so that we can do that. Thank you for the message. Like, let's, it at the very least, I've got you, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that goes really nicely into, you've already touched on it, and supporting ourselves and realizing importance of taking care of our emotional health, our mental health, our physical health. They're all tied, they're all connected, they all feed off of each other. And again, going back to that, for so many years, I was in such a hyper vigilant state for so many years. And I finally had to, like, gee, many Christmas, where's this coming from? And I finally had to step back and do the work and say, you're safe now. This is not a danger zone anymore. This is no longer going to happen to you. And really sitting with my younger self, like, I've taken care of this. We're not in that set space now. We're not with these people now. We've moved away from that. So we don't have to, not every, your hair is not always on fire all the time. Not everybody, there's not always going to be this kind of response or reaction anymore because we're not surrounding ourselves with those people or spaces now. But there's such an innate connection because again, we've created these habits and these ways to survive and be safe emotionally, mentally, physically, whatever way it's manifested itself. And we've got to, and I think it really takes, you got to be in a safe enough place where those feelings and emotions feel safe to come to the surface, where you can acknowledge them, where you can meet them and address them. But talk to me about your, like, kind of that emotional, mental, physical health connection, those somatic responses. What has your experience been with that?
Oh, it's all connected. It really is. And yeah, my form of self care, first and foremost, is to my body. So I'm really strict about
Mm,
making sure I get at least 8 hours of sleep because that really affects my mood. I live in the Seattle area and it is January. I don't see the sun like ever. So
no,
I've got,
I
yeah.
grew up in the Northwest. I know exactly what you're talking about. My oldest daughter, who's actually on the phone with my husband right now, is in Bellingham,
Mhm.
just north of you, and my youngest is living up there with her right now too. So I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. So if I don't take vitamins every day and I don't have this full spectrum light that I sit under every morning, like I feel it in my mood and my energy level. I just get really like sad and depressed. So like
Yeah.
yeah, it's all connected. The amount of sunlight you see, the amount of movement, the amount of sleep, the amount of nutrients you're getting, it's all connected. And so um yeah, just being able to be mindful of where you're at physically and emotionally, just being able to practice that mindfulness of like, okay, I can tell that I'm feeling distressed. Where is this coming from? What is this telling me? What does my body and mind need right now? And that's a big part of taking care of your inner child because anyone who has children or knows children knows that they get really cranky when they're hungry or when they're tired or when they're, any number of things, or when they've been sitting too still for too long. And so when you're feeling emotionally, amped up, a good starter when you're really not sure what you're feeling is to, sit back and say, okay, have you eaten lately? Have you had enough water? Like, what do you need? Do you need a hot shower? Do you need a walk? Whatever it is. And just like start there. And then that helps to calm the nervous system until you can start thinking like, okay, is this feeling something that I need to deal with right now? Or is this feeling something that I never dealt with before that needs processing after the fact? And so, yeah, being able to sit with your inner child and nurture them the way that you would any small child and just say like, "Hey, what do you need? I'm here for you." And having that primary secure attachment to yourself sets you up for success. It creates this unshakable foundation within yourself that makes you show up so differently and so much healthier in all of your other relationships.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because you're trusting yourself. And you've created a trusting bond with your inner child. You're not feeling abandoned anymore. You're feeling heard, you're feeling seen. And so you're not looking for your needs to be met by another relationship because you've learned how to meet them
External
yourself.
validation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So in my journey, that was a big, very interesting shift that I noticed over the course of maybe a year after that turning point because you get because in that turning point, I ended up moving 1,000 miles away and getting a different job and going back to school and just completely changing my life and reconnecting with people that I'd lost touch with, who had been good people, who were supportive, that I just kind of fallen out of touch with. And the more I did to rebuild my life the way that I'd always wanted it to be, the more this vulnerable, deep seated inner part of me, that inner child, began feeling. I could feel it. Like, I could feel that self-loathing and that self-deprecating, all of that turning into self-respect and safety and love. And I got really good at being in my own presence alone.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and it was
That's a
so
big
weird.
turning point. That's a big turning point in the healing journey because we are so before we really get started on the healing process, we are so afraid to be alone with ourselves and our thoughts because
Mhm.
we have no idea what to do with it. We don't know what's going to come up. And so when you can get really comfortable with that downtime, with that quiet time, and feel actually rested and rejuvenated being alone with yourself, that is such a huge turning point.
Absolutely. And yeah, it was so weird because it was like this dual identity, because on the one hand there was the adult me that was like, "Hey, I'm going to intentionally take care of you." And then there was the child me being like, "Whoa, I am feeling cared for the first time."
Yeah,
And
and I
yeah,
matter, and what I feel and
yeah,
how matters. Yeah,
yeah. I matter
absolutely.
just as much as anyone else.
Exactly,
And
exactly.
yeah, in one of my blog posts, I talk about authentic confidence and how you can't be authentically confident without humility, and this recognition that not everybody knows everything, but everybody knows something, including you,
Yeah,
including you.
yeah, yeah, and we all deserve to have a voice and be heard within that. Absolutely. Oh, that's really good, and I love that take on humility. Talk to me about this is what you do. This is what your work is in supporting yourself and other women and living unapologetically. Talk to me about that trajectory from you hit rock bottom, you realized you needed to get help. So you went on your healing journey. Talk to me about that transition like, wait a minute, I think I can help other people with this too.
That part of it is actually kind of recent. I had always fantasized about, like, sharing whatever insights I have, or maybe like giving a TED talk. That's literally on my bucket list.
Mhm. Yeah.
But when I went back to school, I went back for teaching. And so in my teaching program, I took a lot of psychology classes, and I learned just a lot of things about people's perception. And I learned about trauma informed response. I started working with, quote, at risk teenagers,
Yeah.
which were children that had experienced a lot of trauma in their lives. And I learned a lot about how they manifest that in their behaviors and what they need. And so I learned a lot about just what a human being needs in order to calm those triggered responses and feel safe again. And that was a big part of it for me. um, and then when I started teaching, I realized that, you know I can't even begin to teach the curriculum if my kids don't feel safe in my presence. Because, like I said, learning is an emotionally taxing endeavor. You have to be willing to try something new, willing to screw up, willing to fail. And in a lot of cases, in front of your peers. That is terrifying. And if they don't feel safe, then they can't learn anything. They're not going to remember anything. It's not going to stick. And um, so that became my priority in my practice, was making my students feel safe in the classroom first and foremost. And then I can start to teach them, whatever it is that they're learning that day, whether it's math or whether it's social studies or music or whatever it is. Then they can actually focus. And I realized just how much of your energy is freed up when you when you finally feel safe.
Yeah.
um, And so the more I learned about that and the more practice I got with the boundaries, with the saying no in class, because, you get like 10 ridiculous requests every second when you're teaching. It's an ongoing practice. And the more I got good at it, the more I was helping my friends in my personal life. They would come to me, with their situations, just as friends do, like, hey, here's what I'm going through. And I found that I really, really enjoyed, talking about what I learned with them. And they really seemed to enjoy listening. And then they'd come back to me later and say, hey, I took your advice and it worked out really great. And thank you and everything else. And, it made me absolutely light up seeing them making positive changes in their lives and honored to be part of that change. And so, yeah, I wondered if I could do more with it.
Mm.
And I discovered coaching. And so I designed this program. And so far, the feedback has been incredible. I mean, I've got people telling me that they they got out of a really damaging relationship, and then the next relationship they got into was the best they've ever had. Like, they didn't realize how good it was or how good it could be. I had one client who had always had a strained relationship with her father, and when she finally started putting her foot down, they became closer. And
Hmm.
she said she's more relaxed around him than she'd ever been.
Wow.
I've got, yeah, I've had a woman tell me that she was a chronic overthinker and couldn't make a decision to save her life. And now she's said she's feels like there's a weight lifted off her chest where she just feels free and light. She even said that she feels like she's giving more power to the people she loves and cares about, and
Wow.
just kind of paying it forward. It's been a really humbling and amazing journey so far. And I'm really excited for what the future holds.
Absolutely. I love that. I love those affirming stories. And I think you mentioned this. I don't think we realize how much energy fear takes up in us until we've released it and we're not experiencing it anymore. And you were just like, holy cow. I mean, it literally opens up this whole new space and place and enables you to see things you've never seen before, or even experienced, because you're not being consumed by this fear and trying to figure out how to survive the next situation, the next situation, the next situation. It's really, really mind blowing when you finally like are able to unravel that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the science backs it up. Like, going into
Yeah.
survival mode, it shuts down your prefrontal cortex and fires up your amygdala and makes it impossible to think critically and get curious. Um,
Yeah.
and when you're constantly in that state, it really impairs your ability to see things clearly. And that's a big part of where that self trust comes from, is when you are living in this whirlwind of chaos and fear and craziness. Like, of course you can't necessarily trust what you see because you can't see straight.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
learning how to nurture yourself and calm yourself and make yourself feel safe, it frees up all of that energy and brings circulation back to your prefrontal cortex, so that you can actually think straight and see things clearly and get curious. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, curiosity is uh once I got
It's a
that
huge
back,
gift.
it was amazing.
It really
Yeah.
is. It really is. I've had my own journey with curiosity. I talk about this a lot lately, where I really learned, with the help of my therapist, learned how to move from judgment to curiosity. And that opened up a
Mhm.
whole new world. Rather than being judgmental of decisions I'd made, things I've done, places, people I'd chosen, whatever the case may be, get curious. Where were you at that time? Who was in your life? What kinds of events were happening around you? What was a typical day like? Then that was like, oh, that's how I landed there. That's how I got there. And then I also am
Mhm.
able now, when I've learned how to get curious with myself, now get curious about other people. I'm like, okay, rather than just rushing to judgment, let's get curious about why they're responding that way, why they think that's the best course of action, why they've chosen that. You got
Yes.
excited when I said that, so go ahead.
I was just gonna say that exactly. And that was something that that my clients have been telling me, is that when they learned how to be gentle with themselves and how to get curious about the messages that they're going through and everything, they realized that they were learning a lot about the people around them too. And so I ended up including that in my program. This is something I touch on, is like when people are reacting to your empowerment, when you're setting a boundary for the first time, it's their inner child that's reacting to that too. And so when you can view how they are behaving through that lens, it makes it a lot less threatening. And you can get
Yeah.
curious about it and be like, oh, that's what's going on. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it makes
Absolutely.
such a big difference. I like to liken it to a kid in a grocery store. Like when you give them a boundary for the first time, they might react in any number of ways. They might, cry. They might kick and scream on the floor. They might try to argue with you or sneak one past you or any number of things. And then eventually, like all kids do, if you hold true and hold strong, then they learn that, oh, this boundary is real. It's here. And they stop trying to push it, and then they feel safe in the structure that you provide, knowing exactly how you feel, where you stand, and that you'll say what you mean and mean what you say. And that if there's a problem, you will tell them. It makes
Yeah.
people feel safer in your presence. And yeah, learning to be kind to yourself, it teaches you how to be kind to others in a way that is enormous. It's sustainable. It's freeing. It's energizing. It's not people pleasing.
No, no. And it's ensuring, and we'll get to this a little bit later, but it's ensuring that you're surrounding yourself with the kind of people that are going to care about you being well and being healthy and whole. And you're going to be mindful of that. And we'll touch on that
Mhm.
more later, but that's a big piece of that. And this goes nicely into, coming back to your why and your values and everything you do, which really connects back to our boundaries, connects to our expectations, which we'll talk about in a minute. But for you, I mean, you kind of had to get to a place where you realize I'm living this life that's kind of been dictated for me. I've got to figure out who I am. I've got to start making choices that are healthy and good for me. So talk to me about finding your own why and your own values and parsing those out from the things that you've been told, and knowing, okay, wait a minute, this is what I care about. These are my values. This is where my integrity lies. This is where my why is and what it's focused in and how I'm going to proceed moving forward.
Hmm. Yeah, well, a lot of that did come from finally feeling that curiosity. When I finally
Mm,
had my own life back, I was free to explore. Like, wait a minute, what do I like? What do I want? What is important to me? And being able to get out there and do new things and interact with new people and just kind of explore my own emotions as I encountered new things and being like, oh, okay, what is my body telling me about this, and what is it telling me about that? And it took, a while. This was a process of like just kind of tuning in and becoming very mindful of how my body and mind were responding to various things.
yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, that was a big part of it, and that took that trust, that inner trust
yeah,
of being like, okay, my body it knows what I need. It is going to tell me when I'm in a good place and when I'm in a not so good place, and it will tell me. And if I feel this discomfort, I need to not avoid it as much as analyze it, get curious about it. Where is it coming from? Is this discomfort I'm feeling because I'm genuinely in a place that doesn't align with who I am, or am I feeling this because I'm pushing myself to grow in ways that are in my best interest?
yeah.
And
And that's an important question. You have to delineate that whole trust piece again to be able to know the difference is a big player in that. Thank you for that. That was really good. I, living out of your own expectations versus others. When you grow up in an environment where you're just trying to stop the chaos and feel as safe as you possibly can, not be picked on, not be a problem, all these
right.
things, it can be really difficult to move into like, wait a minute, I get to actually live out of my own expectations now. I get to decide the script. I get to communicate that to other people. Talk to me about that journey and what was involved to getting comfortable in that space.
I think I think it was again that rock bottom moment where it all just kind of exploded and fell apart, and it felt like I was starting from scratch is what it was. I felt like my entire identity and everything was just gone. Um, and yeah, and I felt like my life was not mine. And so it really felt like starting from scratch of slowly building my life and slowly discovering who I am. And there were people who came at me were like, hey, you used to be this and you used to be that and whatever. And again, I just kind of ran out of F's to give. It was just
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
you know what? No, actually, this is my turn. Finally, like, I'm gonna figure this out, and it's my time. And I really sincerely hope that it doesn't take a rock bottom moment for most of the women who are feeling this way, where they feel like their life isn't theirs. Like, if you're waiting for a sign, this is your sign. I'm telling you right now, you have permission. Go out there, figure out what you like and what you want. And if you want some help doing that, I got you.
yeah. I love that. Thank you for that. That's so good because so many, that's one of the reasons I started this and having these conversations is I didn't want other people to get to where I got. I'm like, let's nip this in the bud sooner. Let's give a framework that's available out there to know that you're worth prioritizing your self-care and your wellness, to know that you're worth setting boundaries for, to know that there's connections between all of these different parts of our health and feel
Mhm.
empowered in having this framework in place so that when you get a little off kilter, you've got to go back to it, but you don't have to hit a rock bottom before you start implementing these practices and these strategies. So, yes, 100%.
Mhm.
Ladies, if you're listening, you've been waiting for a sign, this is your sign.
Yes, absolutely. And there are so many skills to be learned, and there are so many incredible resources out there, not just me, but other coaches and books and everything else. But I love working closely with my clients and being there to give them real-time reflections into the situations that they're actually going through right now, because that is such a big part of finding your empowerment, is being able to just gain that clarity about the situations you're currently in. Theory
Yeah.
is all well and good, but getting into the actual nitty gritty, the practice of it, of like, oh, okay, your homework is that person you've been telling me about. It's time for you to figure out a boundary for this situation and set it, and then you're going to come back and we're going to talk about it and see how it feels for you and how it went, and let's see if we can adjust our strategy. And oh, maybe there's some more skills that I can teach you about this. And on it goes. Like, that real time support is such a huge game changer. And I had to figure it out the hard way by, taking psychology classes and having my life completely fall apart and having to build it back from scratch. And I do not want anyone else to have to go through it like I did. I would much rather they get the support from someone who can show them how to do it. And I feel like at this point in my life, I'm feeling pretty solid. Like I said, people have described me as very confident, which is, it's a high honor for sure.
Absolutely. What
So,
a gift for that. When you look at where you've come from and you see your own growth in that, that's got to be such a great feeling to have that and to know that you're now able to empower other women as well with these resources, with these tools, and that it can be done. I think that's such an important thing for women to know and to do it in community, to do it together. You're not alone. You don't have to do this in
mhm,
isolation or by yourself. There's people and resources and communities out there ready to meet you where you are and
mhm,
be that person, that voice, that affirmer, that cheerleader that you need to help you get to where you want to get to.
absolutely. And yeah, getting to where you are and seeing how far you've come. That's actually one little practice. So I used to dissociate and daydream about being an adult. Now what I do is, when I'm in certain situations, I sit back and I imagine that little version of me taking a sneak peek into my life now,
Oh,
seeing how
wow.
far I've come, and seeing, the life that I've created for myself. And then I think, okay, what decision could I make in this moment that would make her proud, that would make her feel like, okay, it's going to be okay. I'm going to turn out all right, and continue making choices to honor that inner child. And so far it's been working out pretty well.
Yeah, yeah. I love when you can go back and let them know, like, this is to come. You won't be in this situation forever. Hang on, I'm here
Mhm.
for you, and we've done this thing, and it's going to be all right, and you're going to thrive. And I think
Yeah,
it's such an
it's so much
empowering
better.
thing. Yeah, absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely. All right, accepting the layered aspects of ourselves, all those pieces, all those parts, all those seasons that we experience. That obviously, you and I both grew up in environments where it's like, didn't love that. Also, part of my journey, I need to acknowledge it. I need to process the parts that hurt, heal the traumas, but I need to not try to I need to not hide it away or stuff it in this corner or have any shame around it. So talk to me about your journey of moving into that. You talk a lot about assertiveness, and
Mhm.
teaching yourself and your clients about that, and being bold with your voice. And I think within, to be able to get to that point, you've got to really learn how to accept all these different parts of yourself. It brings that curiosity piece back in again, rather than being
Mhm.
judgmental of yourself, getting curious. So talk to me about that journey piece for you.
Well, I've always been kind of an empath. Like even the kids that bullied me growing up, if they would turn on a different kid in the group and that kid would go off and be sad about it, like my empathy would kick in and I would go check on that kid to see if they were okay. And you know, I saw people who were also people pleasers. I mean, I learned it from somewhere. Folks
Sure.
who would make excuses for abusive behavior because they have so much empathy for their trauma and their struggle and all the things that were happening when they did the thing that they did, and having all of that compassion for other people's flaws and mistakes and shortcomings and everything like that. So at some point, it just kind of dawned on me like, hey, wait a minute. If they get to have flaws and make mistakes, that means I can too. Like,
Exactly.
yeah. Because, yeah, again, I'm no more important, but I'm no less important either.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that was the realization. I'm not exactly sure when it happened, but that's one thing I definitely want my clients to walk away with knowing is like, hey, if you found yourself making excuses for other people's mistakes, then you are just as capable of having compassion for your own mistakes. And if you can hold yourself accountable while holding space for your imperfections, you can hold other people accountable despite their struggles too.
Absolutely. And I think that's that important piece of, you hear a lot of times people will say, well, I didn't mean to. It's like, you may not have meant to. And maybe your trauma from your background or this experience motivated this. It doesn't lessen the impact or the harm that you did. So you can both,
Yeah.
both things can be true. It can be true that this trauma and these experiences contributed to this behavior, and also that it's not healthy and that it's causing harm to yourself and others. And I think that can be a tricky thing for people. But when you realize yourself, like, wait a minute, I can be both. Like, I can be healthier, heal these spaces, not respond, react, and be that person anymore. And also be accountable that I'm the one that can make those changes. It's not anybody else's responsibility to do that. It's mine.
Yeah, and that's something that's, you know, we put ourselves down for the things that we do
Yeah. We're
so
so hard
much,
on ourselves. Oh, yeah.
so hard on ourselves, and I get that we want to be better, but like it's just this crazy imbalance that somehow develops for so many people where we are not allowed to make mistakes. We are so harsh on ourselves, and yet we make excuse after excuse after excuse for the people around us despite how much they hurt us. And a big part of my program is just achieving that balance where you can care for yourself and hold them accountable,
Yeah.
and give
Absolutely.
yourself and the people around you the same kindness, the same care, the same accountability that you give yourself. And and then it's balanced, and it really reinforces the the fact that you're just as important and you deserve to
Absolutely.
take up space too. Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So good. All right. In living out feel, finding empowerment, embracing layers, which is what you have done and what you are helping other women to do now, talk about how that's impacted your relationship with yourself as well as your relationship with others.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, my relationship with myself has definitely improved a lot. Even now, and I'm not perfect, I still make mistakes and I still struggle and I still have my own triggers that get triggered and all of that. But I've gotten a lot better at um, holding space for myself. And, and this is something that has been a process. So before, when I would get triggered or get emotionally, set off, I would go into a whirlwind, or I would shut down, or any number of extreme reactions that would happen, and it would take days or even weeks for me to be able to clear my head about it and figure out exactly what happened, what the situation was, and how to navigate it. And over the course of years of practice, that window of time got smaller and smaller. Weeks turned into days, which turned into hours. And now I've gotten to the point where if I'm having my own meltdown, I can flip that switch and start talking to my inner child mid meltdown
Mm.
and practice that self-soothing and get to the point where, like, okay,
Ah.
your emotions are valid, it's okay to feel how you feel, what do you need right now? I actually did that not that long ago, where one moment I was crying on the couch because of something that happened, and the next moment I was making myself a snack, I was dancing in the kitchen to my favorite song, I was doing whatever it took to make myself feel better mid meltdown, and it absolutely turned things around. And so it's absolutely possible to get to that point. Um, and it's my desire that every person is able to get to that point where they can see the situation clearly in the moment and be able to support themselves and the people around them in ways that will help make it better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely, and you know that you can help yourself, and when you know you can help yourself and you've got tools to help yourself, it changes the way you show up in your relationships, and how the kinds of relationships that you will entertain and the kinds of relationships you won't entertain anymore. You will no longer surround yourself with people who don't value you.
Yes, and that is also something I teach. That's all. It's
Yeah,
all part of it because it's all related. It really is. And
yeah.
so, part of what I do is I teach my clients how to how to pick the people in their lives, how to look at their existing social network and think like, okay, who are the people in my corner that I could actually turn to for support? Because after they're through my program, yeah, they can keep subscribing to my content or whatever, but like it's the people in their lives who are in the have a front row seat to what's actually happening day to day that can really provide the most support. And yeah, people come into their own empowerment and then look around and realize like, oh, I don't have any allies in my life. Like all of these people that I've known my whole life are actually not supporting me in the direction that I'm trying to go. And that's really sad, and I've gotten to that point where I've had to let people go. You know, it's a really difficult. That's probably been the most difficult decision of my life, is letting people go who I loved but did not did not support or actively discouraged my empowerment and were trying to hold me back from the life that I was trying to build. And it's really hard. And I think that's a big part of why people continue having these relationships, because they don't want to experience that grief and that loss. And it can it can be really difficult, and knowing how to do that with love and compassion and being able to look at someone and say, hey, I love you, but I can't go in this direction with you anymore. I need to go this other way for my well-being, and if you on your own decide that you would like to go that way too, you're welcome to join me. I would love to have you with me, but I can't go this way anymore. And that is one of the most difficult things to say. And then finding those people that do emulate what you're trying to create. People who have these character traits or these skills or these lifestyle choices that inspire you, that you want to move towards. You really are influenced by the people around you. And so knowing how to find those people who put marbles in your jar, as Brene Brown would put it,
Yeah, absolutely.
is so very important.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That was such a good explanation of that. I really appreciate that. And it's so important. It's so, so important. All right. We are down to the rapid fire. Name 5 activities that nourish you.
Okay, rapid fire. Singing, dancing, um, walks outside, uh, time with friends, and snuggling my cat.
Mm, good, 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 good. All right. And 5 words on how you want to feel the next 6 months.
Hmm. Energized, hopeful, helpful, playful, and alive.
Ooh, I love those last 2, playful and alive. We don't talk about playful enough and the value that that has in our lives. So I'm so glad you brought that one up. That's such a huge part of, but I think when you grow up in environments that are very unstable and chaotic and don't feel safe, that playfulness doesn't, there's not room for it because you're just trying to survive
Yeah,
all the time. So you really have to
that's what they mean by
rediscover that.
growing up too fast. Yeah, that
Yeah.
didn't mean to interrupt you. But yeah,
No,
that's what they mean by
absolutely.
growing up too fast is that you lose that play and your inner child wants to play. It wants to feel joy and connection and love. And yeah, finding that like self-care is not all rest and manicures and spa treatments and whatever else. Self-care is silliness. It's
Yeah.
dancing like an idiot in your kitchen.
Yeah.
It's telling stupid jokes and trying new things and getting dirty, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, we
Engaging
don't
in
do that
those activities, no, we don't. In those activities that nourish you and fill you up and are fun and carefree, and you don't have to have a reason to do them other than you want to do it. So I think,
yeah.
yeah, that playfulness piece is so important. Oh, this has been so great today. Comfort, thank you so much for this conversation. So many great tidbits and resources. I knew this was going to be something you would align with so well. And I'm so thankful you reached out to me. Let people know how they can find you, where they can follow you, how they can work with you. And this will all be on our website, listeners, at embracinglayers.com on the resources page. So if you're driving down the road, no need to pull off. We've got you. But Comfort, share real
Mhm.
quick where those spaces and places are that people can find you.
So I have a website. It's comfortcoaching.net. I have an email address. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me at this point. It's comfortwoodscoaching at gmail.com. I also have an Instagram page, comfort underscore coaching, and a Facebook page, comfort coaching. So you can see a lot of my content. You can read my blog. You could reach out to me with a DM. You can comment on any of my reels. I have this weekly series right now. It's called Comfort's Weekly
Mm.
Questions. It's been going on for just a
Mm.
little while now, but fun, thought provoking questions. And so if you are interested, please take a look and leave your comments. And I'd love to hear your thoughts about that. Yeah. So if you want to learn more about me and my work and want to share your story with me, which I would love to hear, please absolutely reach out via email or DM on Instagram or Facebook.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for that. And like I said, that will all be on our resources page at embracinglayers.com. Comfort, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate this. This was such a great conversation. I appreciate the work you do in the world, the way you show up. So thankful for this journey you've been able to go on and now how you're able to help others with that. And really, even just the resource you are to those kids that you're teaching right now, giving them space to be heard and seen. They're going to remember that. Those things matter. So thank you for all the ways that you show up in the world.
Oh, thank you. And thank you so much for the work you're doing. This is amazing.
I think
And
I
I've really
appreciate
enjoyed
that.
this conversation.
Great. Well, it gives me a chance to talk to people like you and share these resources and let women know there's so many spaces and places we want to support you and help you in. You're not alone on this journey. and we're here for you. And so remember that this week, ladies. If anything about this that you heard today resonated with you, know that we're here to support you. Let us know how we can help you. Check out those resources, reach out to us. I speak to people in public as well with all these talking points. So let us know. We're here for you. Take good care of yourselves and have a great week. Hello, Melissa Crook here. Thank you so much for joining us on the Field podcast today, Finding Empowerment, Embracing Layers. I hope you found today's framework and resources supportive and informative. To learn more about all that we offer here at the Embracing Layers Network, visit embracinglayers.com. You can go to our contact form to schedule me as a speaker for your next conference, workshop, or seminar. You can go to our book page to order our book that Jessica Garrison, our wonderful and talented writer and author, authored with my support, and engage with this framework in written form with your journal or in a book club with other women, inviting them on this journey with you. You can look at our resources page for all of the helpful and insightful resources our guests offer and share. You can find the schedule for our weekly Together We Feel women's panel conversations that we're holding each Monday on our YouTube channel. And you can find the links to all the spaces and places you can follow, engage with us on social media, and join our engagements that are happening on our Substack site. There is also a donation page where you can donate to support our work to ensure we can continue to bring you these incredible guests, conversations, and support. Thanks again for joining me this week. Share with your friends and give us a review on your favorite listening platform. Your feedback helps us ensure we're bringing you the content that will best support you in having an empowered, embracing layers journey. Take good care, and thanks for giving us some of your valuable time today. We truly appreciate you so deeply.